Hello and welcome to Stampscapes Live. I'm going to try something new on this wood grain paper that I haven't tried before. I've been really doing a lot of experimenting with this paper and I really do love it. It's really conducive for quick scenes because we have this dynamic, it's a dynamic but mellow background because it's so natural looking, and it just gives us some really great textural forms in the background, a warmth to the piece, and of course that wooden texture. But okay, so in playing around with these things, I can work with this kind of minimal approach on these pieces and be absolutely happy with the end result. But, it's one of those things. If you have some kind of paper that you enjoy working with, we might as well kind of put it to the test and see how far we can take it. So this doesn't just go for the wood grain paper, it can go for the vintage look as well. Whatever types of papers you want to try. Okay, so I've been just doing some of those minimal approaches with it, just with a little bit of colored pencil. Love the look, okay? But I want to add a little bit more vibrancy, and I'm just kind of curious to know how far we can take it here. So this is pretty vibrant, but that's just colored pencils, okay? Okay, so here's the dilemma. I find that StazOn ink gives me the best impression quality on this type of kind of sealed off paper because it has all these printer inks on here. You're doing awesome with the papers. I'm so glad you found those, Linda. That other, kind of harder one with, the slats. Check out Linda's stuff on the Facebook group, people, if you check out this video here. Linda, post those on your Flickr account too, in the Stampscapes group, if you feel inclined. Put them out there for those that aren't on Facebook. But okay, so the StazOn ink, if we print in the StazOn ink, I can't color this with alcohol ink, so it'll just put all that back into solution. Okay, here's the thing though, too. I can print out my imagery in StazOn, and if I want to color this, I could probably spray seal it and then go over it with the alcohol inks. But the problem with that is, if I spray seal it and I color on with the alcohol inks, then I'm probably not going to be able to use colored pencil as much as I could on the unsealed paper, okay? So if I want both in this experiment here. So here's what I'm thinking about doing here. I think this will potentially work because I don't know, in theory it would. What if we stamp out our imagery in a very kind of faded dye-based ink application, okay? Like I said, they stamp out really faded looking, okay? And then we do our coloring where those forms are going to be on here. And then we stamp over the top of it again with the StazOn ink. Now my registration isn't going to be perfect, you know what I mean? I'm not going to be using stamp positioners and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So I might be off, but I think I can compensate by going over the StazOn ink impressions, the double impressions, the off-center impressions, the non-registered, the badly registered ones, just with additional tones. So we add a little bit of tone over the top of that. I don't know, the more I kind of describe that this process, I'm thinking, is this a good idea? This sounds like in my mind, it sounded like a doable process, but now that I'm kind of speaking it out loud, I'm thinking, is that a good idea? It's a good idea for an experiment, right? I don't know if it's going to result in a really great looking end result here, because this is my first time trying this experiment, but I want to know these things going forward. I don't know if it's a technique that I'm going to be dipping into, you know what I mean? But if it shows some potential, this pack of placemats, it's a 50 pack of 11 by 17 pieces. So we're talking about a lot of, you know, potential cards here. You can use it for placements at a picnic though too, I guess, you know. I got a lot of this paper, so we might as well kind of dip into it while I'm experimenting around with it to see what we can do. Okay, guys, so that being said, I'm going to go with a similar composition as this horizon card. Look how nice that horizon card is with this paper here. I think it looked great, you know, just on if you did it on white paper too, but I think this fence looks really kind of, you know, dimensional. I guess it is because it's, you know, several inches this way up here, but I thought that card looked pretty good on that wooden paper. And then I didn't have to do all this coloring in here and in the sky, which I'm happy to do, you know what I mean? But it's kind of nice once in a while to have some kind of foundation here, you know what I mean? Where that's already kind of taken care of and you can kind of address other things in a kind of a minimal approach and, you know, have it look relatively finished. So, all right. So that being said, let's get into it here. Okay, so I'm not going to, let me test here. Let me test this paper here. Let me see how dark this is going to be on here. That's pretty dark right there. Maybe that's too dark. This will be my test piece of paper here. Let me try this one right here. That's pretty dark as well, huh? I wonder if this is going to be too dark for this paper. I don't know why, but this and this, why do those look like the actual colors here? But then when I stamped this in the black, same brand of ink, it looked like so much lighter than the actual color. Oh, okay, anyways. Well, I'll figure it out. Okay, so let's go. Okay, let me go with a little bit of a lighter one. Now that's just a straight swatch. So when I stamp out the you know, the curvilinear road, it's all, you know, tonal, so it's not going to be as dark. So I don't know. I'll figure it out here. Okay, so I'm going to do that chapel. The chapel, I really don't use too many. I usually don't use too many. Which side should I do? Top or bottom? This looks more sky-like to me with those little swirly things up there. I don't stamp too many colors on that chapel, so I don't think I'm going to stamp that one in here. So I think I'm going to be doing this road leading to, or whatever walkway to the chapel. And then I'm going to be doing those hills back there. So it's going to be a version of this, but hopefully much more vibrant. Hello, everyone. Let's see. Hello, Phyllis, Patty, good to see you, Bugs. Debbie, C.M. Hawkins, good to see you, Cynthia. And hope everyone had a great week. I can't believe how fast the weeks go by, and that we're already mid-September, huh? It's crazy. Okay, let's see here. All right, let me put this, I'm going to position this at the base here. So Linda was just mentioning, you know, her wood grain paper. We were talking about it, but I don't know. Does everyone have like a cache of papers in their collection? You know, some things that they haven't, you know, that they've had for a long time but haven't used. You might look through there and see what you have. So someone on Facebook was saying, yeah, you know, they used to do. I forgot if they said they used to stamp on their wood-grained shelf liners for something. Or maybe she used the shelf liner paper for the matting of their cards or something like that. But I thought, oh yeah, you know, there's another potential type of thing. Now, I thought the shelf liners, though, it seems like the shelf lining material would be more sealed. You know what I mean? Because it's out, you want to be able to dust it and stuff like that. It seems like it would be even less porous than something like this, to me, right? Oh, but she said it. You know, I don't know. It worked great for her. So, you know, you know, are we shopping for you know, stamping surfaces at Home Depot now or something like that? I don't know. But I thought that was a great idea because there's all kinds of different things. You know, those shelf liners that you can find. You know, some materials that probably look like tile and things like that. Can you imagine that? So stamping on things like, you know, people that stamp on tiles and it looks awesome, but if you can stamp on uh, like a paper surface that's going to be probably more accepting of inks than something like tiles, you can probably achieve the same type of look, um, but with a much easier surface to deal with. I don't know. All right, so this is the sedge filler. See how light that is right there? So I'm going to be able to see that with my... now this one's stamping out much, much lighter here for some reason. I'll be able to see that, though, and modulate the, you know, is that the word? I don't know. Model the surface with shadow there. I don't know. Yeah, the sedge filler is like really dark for some. I mean, really light for some reason in comparison to the curvilinear road. Okay, so let's go for some hills behind here. I need to work. I didn't know if I wanted to do the chapel. I was thinking about doing the cabin here, maybe. That's really large there, though. Although that would look pretty good. All right, so if the cabin's going right here, okay, I'm not, well, if I do the cabin, though, I do color that in. So maybe I will stamp that one out. I should do a little bit of a line up here, like this, in like colored pencil, where I'm placing this. If I do this here, let's do the cabin. Okay, I think I am going to do this. This is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to put a little bit of a registration line here. You don't need to do it for areas, but I'll just have these little marks up here. I'm just doing it in brown, so it's, you know, similar in tone to the background. Plus I'm going to have all this other stuff around there, so. I've tried this before with something. I don't remember what it was. I don't know, like once. So, you know, I'm hoping for, you know, to not have a total flop of an experiment, but that's the nature of experiments, right? We don't experiment because, you know, we expect everything, you know, to come out exactly as, you know, we hoped. I wish for that, though. But I don't expect it. Let's see. I don't need a placement at a picnic or placemat. I don't either. But if you had the paper, why not? Yeah, these wood grain experiments are really a lot of fun. I mean, we didn't really. The one thing that I needed to experiment with these placemats, or this wood grain paper, was just the ink compatibility. Just kind of like with the that vintage paper. It having that. So I like working with, you know, things like this, you know, and foils and things like that, and we have to find compatibility with that too. But I find that these vintage papers, the wood grain papers, it just seems, and plus we're doing scenic stamping, so it totally harmonizes with kind of the imagery, you know. So these types of surfaces like this, I mean, you know, that background is already taken care of as well. You know what I mean? We're not going to do too much to that, but I feel like I have to do something with these types of really loud papers to utilize them in a scenic stamping, you know, visual scenario. But these ones, you know, it's like you can almost just, or you can literally stamp out the imagery onto it and, you know, have it look like a finished piece, you know, where, you know, we don't have to, you know, do anything further, you know, if we don't want to. And it looks perfectly fine, which is nice to have. All right, so I'm going to stamp out some additional imagery in here. I want to leave, okay, this is an experiment here. So let's do some additional here. Let's do some additional little hills back here because I want to really be able to, you know, utilize some of my brighter tones in here. The brighter tones might not look good either, you know, because this paper is kind of, I don't know where it is in terms of the kind of the visual intensity of it. It seems like kind of it seems like it'd be more conducive for something a little bit more kind of aged and mellow, you know what I mean? Like all these pieces have looked so far, but again, I just want to see if we can really kind of jack up the vibrancy in there. And by doing so, I'm going to be kind of eradicating a lot of the visual kind of presence of the grain in that area, but we'll see how it maybe contrasts with the area that I leave as is, you know what I mean? It might make that wood grain, like say up in the sky in this case, even more present, I guess, because of the contrast that we have in here. So, you know, I put a little bit of color across there and we get some grain in there, but, you know, maybe it, you know, kind of a contrasting type of, kind of color usage. I mean, it could, I don't know if it enhances it. It makes it more kind of visible. Well, so we'll see what it does in this case right here. Okay, so I'm not even sure if I should use these trees on here right now. I guess I will. Because I can just stamp these in at the end with black. Remember, I'm going to be stamping all this in here in black again, so let's go ahead and do it. Okay, just so I guess I know what I'm working around then. It's a little bit of a different process here too, so. Okay, so I'm just going to use the top portions of these trees in the background, so that looks like a kind of a smaller tree, and then maybe I'll use the full thing in the foreground. Kind of vary it, use, I don't know, use half, use 3/4, a quarter, something like that, just to vary those trees in there. And see, this one's right here and right here, so I don't want to go here and here again right underneath it, so you can put it like right here, you know, so the closer ones, you know, a little bit staggered. Like that. See, I'm using a little bit more of it right here, so it's a little bit of a larger one. I don't know, maybe it's the same size as that, but we'll go with the larger one right up here. Doing this type of thing, when I'm working with multiple layers, things like vellum comes to mind, where you have, you know, maybe a photograph in the background or any kind of background, and then you have the back of the vellum and the front of the vellum. If I haven't done it before, or I haven't done it for a while, this is a little bit confusing for me. It's like if you haven't played, like, I don't know, like some game in a while, you can like feel your like brain. It's just like a strain on my little brain here. Okay, so, all right, so we have our forms in here. Okay, so I want to add in, because that's the point of this experiment here, is I want to play around with these forms in here and really kind of model these areas right in here. And I want to do that. I want to try some alcohol inks. Okay, so I haven't done this before either. I don't think I've used alcohol inks on something, you know, except my little experiment with it early on. I don't even know where that little swatch is, but you know, this paper is going to be really absorbent. You know, I'm usually doing this on top of cardstocks or, I don't know, something else, you know what I mean? Not this like really cheap type of paper, which is almost the same thing as like copy paper. So let's just see how it goes. It's a little bit it's a little daunting. Okay, so I'm gonna use some, yeah, this pen's like thrashed here. Let's use, I'm gonna dip into my these flesh tone papers, skin toned, because I have some really light like warm tones, and then I'll go in with my little bit of a brighter green tones and kind of specific colors over the top of it. Okay, this one's really, really light. Okay. It probably doesn't read on here at all when that dries. It's probably just going to completely disappear, but one of the things I am doing with this alcohol ink is you build up the alcohol ink a little bit in the grains of the paper and the pulp of the paper on the surface of the paper. So for me, in terms of how I use alcohol pens, it makes those other colors easier to blend on top because I'm building it over and dissolving the alcohol inks underneath there, like that. Hello, Jeannie. Ginger, good to see ya. Candy is enjoying trying different peppers in her stash. That got me excited, Candy, because I like really spicy foods. So you shouldn't have corrected that one there. Yeah. So did anyone kind of find some interesting papers to try out? I'm kind of curious to know what everyone had. You know, for me, I didn't have a lot of the, you know, I had that, oh, what, I had, I don't know, I tried out that, what am I trying to say? That snowflake paper. You know what I mean? That one wasn't so great. Okay, by the way, what I'm doing here is I'm going into my shadow areas. So like on the curvilinear road, you know, there's this darker area like this right around there that defines the road like that, okay? And then what I'm doing is I'm going underneath my trees like this and just kind of creating some shadow work, okay? Now one of the things that we want to do is, this is the lightest color here, so I should probably be a little bit more generous because I have a lot of area to fill in here. I want this to be pretty, I don't know, media rich in this land area down here. I'm not going to be doing too much in the sky, if anything. So I should really be spreading it around a little bit more. Let's go on to this cabin right here. the thing that's going through my mind here is I'm wondering if I can get my registration when I stamp over the top of these decent enough, and I you know, I don't know if I will, but again, I'm hoping that I can kind of compensate that with, you know, with additional media and coloring, you know, if I'm off by like a lot here. But I don't know if this imagery is going to show up too much though anyways, because it is so light here. It's like I just posted a kind of a hiking video, and I feel like I'm, you know, there's something you know, daunting, you know, kind of towards the end of the hike that you're gonna have to do, you know, and so it's on my mind here. I shouldn't be thinking that way because, you know, it's like an experiment, but you know, I'm doing it live, so. All right, here comes another color. Let's see if it's a little bit darker here. Still a very light tone, light warm tone here. Okay, like that. Maybe I'll bring in some kind of fall colors into that deciduous tree in between the kind of the evergreens there. Okay. Like that. It's starting to get a little bit more visible, I think, right? But see, leaving these kind of lighter areas in here, let's create a little separation right here between kind of this little slope and maybe the back slope in there. Leaving those lighter areas like that in here is the thing that's going to create our lighting in here, so hopefully it looks pretty good. You know, after we color it more and the impressions, I don't know, the re-stamping of all these different forms come into play. All right, so here's what feels really weird for me here too. This is such a light foundation here that going in with these kind of brighter tones, they're going to totally overpower the impressions, but those aren't the impressions that, you know, we're going to be utilizing in this scene. We're going to be utilizing, you know, much darker ones. Not, you know, this one's like the spruce tree large, but, you know, these should all be, you know, so I'm guessing they'll be kind of like this darkness up here, maybe. I don't know if it's going to be as dark with the impressions because I'm, you know, I'm sealing off this paper even more with alcohol ink, so it might be harder for that to come through. But so, okay, so doing something like this feels really kind of bizarre because that really stands out. Or I don't know, does it stand out? Maybe it doesn't stand out as much as I thought it would. But it's a much brighter color here in this yellow than, you know, the paper itself. Like that yellow right there, it's brighter than anything on here, you know, in terms of intensity. I don't know, it kind of mellowed out in here though, maybe because the paper's darker. All right, and let's start going in with the greens here. This is kind of the daunting thing right here. And Joe, you're using different papers. I always thought that was cheating. Now, what do they say? You know, the true whatever warrior uses kind of, you know, anything at their disposal. Why not? I don't know, maybe in terms of a, I wouldn't even call it a purist kind of approach to stamping, you know, starting on a white piece of paper, because I don't know. I remember like stamping started, this might be a little bit too bright. You know, stamping started back when, and there was a lot of experimenting taking place. You know, back in the early days of stamping, a lot of male artisans were doing all kinds of different things and making use of things. I, I think I remember people stamping on, I don't know, like magazine. I don't know, like there was a lot of there was a lot of stuff going on just because there wasn't a whole lot to utilize in terms of I don't know, like product availability. Um, I don't know, it was just like making do. So yeah, yeah, but don't feel like you're cheating. Um, you're utilizing like a designer. A designer goes into an empty palette, which is like an interior, like an interior designer, and they're not creating like their wallpapers or things like that they're utilizing in there. They're buying artwork and whatever, and decorating an interior space with it. And I don't know. That's the way I've always kind of looked at it in terms of the utilization of things. I don't know. That being said, I didn't dip into a whole lot until I started using the metallics, just because I had so many of them in my collection. All right, let's see. Here's a color that I hardly ever use. It's like a yellow green here. Looks like a mess, doesn't it? Remember, you have to kind of think about it in terms of kind of a foundation um, for what is to come. In some ways, though, for me, I'm thinking about it in terms of a foundation to come, but I just can't visualize what it's going to look like. You know, Even a little bit down the line, because I just haven't used it before. Okay, so the alcohol inks in the meadow area should give it kind of a good foundation vibrancy. I'm going to go over the top of it with colored pencils. But see this cabin here, if we don't use, some of the same media on there, I tend to think that it won't look related to its setting. So you don't have to go as vibrant in here, because it's going to be, kind of a wooden structure, where this area in here is going to be bright colored grasses. But it's good to kind of hit it with the same kind of, or a similar, or maybe I should say compatible kind of finish to it. So you don't want it to look anemic, in other words. All right, so you can come into here with these different colors, but it doesn't mean you have to go as dark, but try to go as rich in terms of like I said, it doesn't have to be the same, but kind of go with multiple layers of media on there, just to kind of bring it up to similar um, I guess a similar depth, maybe visual depth. Like I said, that could be lighter too. Okay, so here's a really light, or I don't know. This is like the third or fourth value, I guess, right here. Okay, in that cabin. I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to bring this down into my grasses too. Okay, so this is going to be darker around in this area. So using that same type of color in that and down there, hopefully we'll contribute to the continuity between these two objects, okay? So I'm kind of using it for my shadows in both areas. I really feel like I need to stamp those images out there because so I can see how dark they are, but I don't know, let's try to develop it a little bit more with the alcohol pens first. Yeah, hello, Vintage Scrap Girl. Patty's looking forward to using different papers, working on cards for my dentist's office. Okay, cool. They always want cards to be teal and cream. Those, I tell you, those the vintage papers, they're often kind of the cream kind of a variety. They're usually warm looking. If you want any kind of textures, you know, to add to those pieces that you're doing, Patty. Who's being cheated? Okay, so you know my commentary, my comments on the cheating aspect of it. I mentioned one of my videos. Okay, so when I was doing these wood pieces, like after I did like the third one, okay, I have to admit, they were coming together so fast. I felt like, when I was done with the cards, you know, I it came together so fast that, I don't know, I felt like I was cheating a little bit, or maybe that's not the so accurate. Maybe it just felt like I was finishing too fast. You know what I mean? Or something. It 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 felt it didn't feel wrong, but I don't know. It did feel bizarre. I'd have to admit. Okay, so I'm wondering if I should go on anymore here with this. Let's go in with the brighter green here. Okay. See, still utilizing, or retaining, not utilizing, but retaining the brightness, or the lightness of some of just the bare paper in here, okay? This is one of the things that one of my instructors taught us one time, or I don't know if he taught us, he might have been just making a comment to one of the other students, but he said a lot of times the brightest of colors is in the shadow areas because, and it makes sense, if you look at like a really super bright day, okay, or light day, high noon, full sun or something like that, the colors aren't as bright as they look on an overcast day because they're not getting washed out. So I'm adding like these brighter tones in these shadow areas at the base of the trees, cabin, on the edge of the road, defining the road like that. So it's this kind of brighter, green here, like that. Okay. All right. I think that is enough, though. Let's go into the impressions now. Here, let's go into these trees, these deciduous trees, a little bit more. It still looks a little bit anemic to me in terms of brightness. So let's bring in a little bit more of layering here. I'm not used to seeing these specific alcohol colors, though, look as dull as they look. You know what I mean? Even some of these other colors that I'm using, they usually look a little bit more vibrant after being applied, just because this paper is soaking, absorbing all of this ink here. So it's not staying on the surface like a, clay-coated cardstock or something like that. I'm not used to working on such cheap paper, in other words. So I think I'm having to go a little bit more. I'm having to apply more than I'm kind of used to. And I'm not used to watching it kind of, you know, look so dull when it's settled and kind of soaked in and dried. All right, so here I need to hit some of these areas right in here in the trees as well. And that looks like really weird, but I thought, okay, after I stamp my image right over the top of that, I'm not going to really be able to color it with pens again, so I better do it right now. Like this green right here, look how kind of vibrant and yellow green it looks, but on here it looks like it loses half of the intensity, I think, half of the warmth and vibrancy, you know, the saturation of it. It looks totally different on this paper. I thought the printing on here would be, it wouldn't influence it quite as much, but it does. So, we'll see. Candy stamped 30, didn't use printed paper at all. Huh. It was a lot of cardstock and glossy cardstock. Candy, were you stamping a lot of envelopes then 30 years ago? There was a lot of envelope stamping. And I thought, okay, yeah. Okay, so this is what it was too. So I'd see people, they made their own envelopes, and they're making their own envelopes a lot of times out of just things. I don't think it was newspapers, but like magazines or something like that. And then they would stamp on top of that, I think. I mean, I didn't see that a lot, but that whole mail artisan, MAIL artisan crowd, they were doing some wild things back then. And mail artisan group, that was a big stamping whatever group back when. So I used to see a lot of that. And then, of course, you know, Rubber Stamp Mandos was such a major player in the you know, the promotion of the medium. So I used to see a lot of those examples, like in RSM, early RSMs though. Okay, seems like that the mail artisan group, you didn't see them quite as much after a while. Okay, I'm gonna try to get this registration right here. Okay, so I'll do it like this. Okay. There, I have my 3 points of a registration right there, I think. All right. I need to pull out my stamp positioner from Stampa Barbara. Speaking of stamping 30 years ago. That doesn't seem like I'm registering that correctly there. Okay, so that's right there. That's right there. I don't know. It seems like it. Well, let's see. I just lost it. Okay, there it is right there. All right, forgive my head if it's in your way here. find that with StazOn, you really don't need to make the impression for too long, because if it's going to make the impression, it's going to do it within like 2 seconds, right? But I don't know, it feels weird to lift that up too soon. Okay, so I was off a little bit, not too bad. And that's where I'll just kind of fill in with some additional, colored pencil. All right, now this one is right, where's that top? I can't see my registration mark. It's right there. Okay, let's go with this one. Okay, I should probably re-ink this. I've already re-inked it once today. Is there a pad that we have to re-ink more than StazOn? Maybe the Brilliance ink if you're using the Brilliance ink because it's thicker. Okay. That one is closer than this one here. So I guess make your registration marks. But then you would have to leave it, if you're using unmounted, you have to leave it on the block so you know where, the registration marks go. All right, here. All right, I'm gonna have to clean that one off after. All right, let's see. Now we have all of the little tree clusters here. If you just joined in, the experiment here is to just get some more vibrancy into this paper, this wood grain paper, in the form of the alcohol inks, because they're usually pretty vibrant, but I don't know, maybe they just soak through, and it's just, might as well just use colored pencil on here, but we'll know that going forward though. More, than we did before this test here. But and also I just wanted to see what kind of the I don't know, the combination or process could potentially look like, and just maybe see how vibrant we can make this lower area using a compatible kind of sequencing where you can't, we wouldn't be able to use alcohol ink over the top of the StazOn impressions because it'll just put those StazOn impressions, it'll just completely smear that solvent style of ink. All right, so everything previously was stamped in a dye-based brown, which isn't going to smear and go back into solution with the alcohol because it's water-based ink, okay? Okay. Now if you have other colors of StazOn too, you can, stamp the trees out and, if you have, I don't know if StazOn comes in like a dark green or something like that, but that would have been cool. I should have wiped off the edges of that curvilinear road just so it kind of blends in here a little bit easier than have kind of a firm edge like that. But let's go into it with the sedge filler and just kind of blend that out a little bit more. And then I'll add in some additional foreground in here too. All right, so winter's coming up. If everyone, hasn't done their kind of wintry, Christmassy types of cards yet, I stabbed that one too firm there. I think there should be a lot of like snowflake papers out there. That would be really cool. There's probably snowflakey looking placemats. I haven't looked that up. But I think a paper like that would be really cool, having a bunch of like snowflakes, or something like that. What you want to do, I think, a more kind of malleable surface would be if it's not too, there's not too much contrast up there. So this is like like the darkest areas on this paper are probably like a 50%, in terms of light and dark, but it's for the most part, the tones are in the 10 to 15% kind of range in here in terms of light and dark, again, value rays. And so I think we can do a little bit more on there. Like, I don't want to have like some dark, like snowflake in here if I was doing this on a, kind of a snowflakey looking printed background. But if there's some lighter snowflakes in here that, that don't show up too much, it'll show up in the rooftop maybe a little bit more, not so much in the shadows. We can just color in the side of it, and then we can get rid of, harsher looking kind of existing patterns on the paper if we're using it. So, so if you're looking around, or, you have some stuff in your collection and you have a bunch of it, maybe try kind of the lighter ones first. And you won't have to work around it quite as much, maybe. Okay, so let's try to go in here with some colored pencils, and let's give it a little bit more vibrancy and kind of intensity down a little low. Yeah, I'm with you, Candy. Who cares how long they take, huh? If we can get kind of the, an end result that we were happy with, and it looks good. I don't know, like 2 minutes that might be a little bit too fast, but maybe like 2 minutes is cheating. Unless you're doing 100 cards or 100 things of the same exact thing. What's the fastest card anyone's ever made? Has anyone ever done like a 2-minute, project card and like mailed it out or something like that? I think if we're going with like some kind of printed paper or something like that, and let's say you're doing, like a, I don't know, whatever. Let's say you have a big Christmas card mailing list or something like that, where you're doing like 50 cards or something like that. I think we can do something pretty fast if you just stamp something out and then you put, powder down and emboss it. But you're doing it kind of in a production line. I guess you can't go too far because you gotta, you can't print too many things at the same time, otherwise it'll dry before you get the embossing powder. But I think something like that would probably be pretty fast. All right, so I'm going with that brown again here. So it's just kind of going with the same type of version of, one of those like skin tone colors, but this is like, pretty dark. But again, if you haven't watched my videos before, I usually start really light and kind of build into those darker, more intense tones. Okay, so down here in this road here, I'm putting a little bit of a shadow in here like this around the side of it. Let's get a little bit more texture in here too before I go too far with this, because it's easier, I think, to stamp on this StazOn ink on this bare paper down here. I mean, it has a little bit of tone, maybe with the alcohol ink at this time, but then to coat it with a bunch of, waxy colored pencil applications. And then to stamp it, might as well just do it right now. Let's get a little bit of this texture in this grass area too. It just kind of gives it a little bit of a richer textural range, having something like this. All right, so that was brown. Let's go into our cabin here. Okay, so on this rooftop here, this is one of the little things I do. I don't leave the rooftop just completely light, but you want to leave it a little bit lighter so that it's lighter than the sides, you know, the vertical sides. So if you want to have it look really three-dimensional, what you do is you create a little bit of separation between this wall and this one. So I'm going a little bit of harder thing. Now it's in the design itself. If you look at the tonal patterns that I gave it, and then see you go a little bit underneath the eaves like that, and that makes that rooftop stand out a little bit more. But then you have this on the sides too. You can go a little bit under the eaves over here, but then you create that separation. Now it doesn't matter where you do it. I mean, this wall could be darker here, and you can have this one lighter, but just create a little bit of a variation between the different planes of things, okay? But on top, this is like one big open area, so I'm going to have these trees casting a little bit of a shadow in here. So you just go like that, you know, so that rooftop's just not one, you know, uniform kind of value up there. Candy still stamps her envelopes. I don't see enough envelope stamping. At least in posted. Candy, you should post your. You know, you should post. Have you photographed your envelopes for your pieces? You might have been doing that, but I think it'd be nice to show kind of the accompaniment, you know, for a given card that you know that we're mailing out. Especially if it's kind of within the theme of the card itself. Okay, going with a darker brown here, hitting my shadows. I really need to come in here. I'm looking forward to using like variations of green here. So usually what I'm doing with any type of media that I'm doing, I usually like to have kind of a light, medium, and darker. I mean, not all the time. Sometimes it's lights and mediums, you know, depending on how dark something is going to go. But I like to go for a range of tones. And it isn't specific, like, oh, hey, what green was that you used? But on this one, I mean, it just happens to be this one's a little bit more intense and warm. This one's a little bit darker. And this, you know, this one's like a pine green or something like that. Olive green, okay? So, but just light, medium, and dark. And that's what I do for, you know, my dye-based ink types of techniques and things like that. You just want to have a little bit of a range of tones. I mean, there's other types of considerations that you can think about with, you know, colors. You can think about, you know, having, you know, different temperatures of colors too. Like I said, this one's a little bit more of a warmer green. You know, this one right here, it's, you know, that olive. I mean, the olive is supposed to be kind of a warmer green, but it's a little bit more neutral than, say, a yellow green for sure. All right, so I'm going in here, and again, I'm trying to retain some of these lighter areas, okay? If anyone's joining in to the channel for the first time, thanks for checking it out. Welcome. A lot of these pieces, especially the Stampscape lab pieces, are not really instructional. They are, you know, experimental. I don't know if this is going. I don't know if the things are going to work. I don't know how they're going to look like. And I guess most important of all, you don't know if it's going to look good, if it, you know, even if the process seems to, you know, turn out okay. And it's just one composition, you know. You know, you can apply these things if it seems like a technique or sequencing of a media application works. Maybe it'll work better with a, you know, a different you know, scenario. It might not even be scenic stamping. It could be, you know, some other type of, you know, genre. All right, so getting a little bit brighter. It's getting, you know, I have a feeling that this one's going to get too bright. I'm wondering if I can use some white pigment ink on this. You know, we'll see how it goes. Okay, so here's the darker green. That's why we wanted you to, I should have had you everyone cross their fingers there, Linda. You know, I've been doing this for a long time, okay? But that being said, you know, I don't know. It's a little bit nerve-wracking to, you know, I when I was trying to position that, I didn't want to be off by like a quarter inch or something like that. You know, that would have been hard to work around. And it's not like, you know, in a live stream, we're not going to say, all right, oops, you know, let's rewind, you know, a half an hour and let's do it. Let's start over again. So, yeah, a little bit nerve wracking, but I don't know. That's good though, isn't it? You know, it's, you know, stamping sometimes should be a little bit, you know, nerve wracking where we're kind of stepping outside of the comfort zone. You know, on the live stream, I don't know. Yeah, it's maybe a little bit more kind of, you know, I don't know, nerve-wracking's kind of a harsh thing for it. I'm not like too worried about it, but you know, I still want it to come out like okay. Like if I did this live too, like at a convention or something like that, which wouldn't be the, you know, the location to do that in, but sometimes I'm, you know, experimenting around with something or something happens, I'm trying to repair it, you know what I mean? You can feel the tension in the air, um, you know, with everyone around you. And you can, you know, sometimes when I'm doing these lives, I think I can, you know, it might be in my imagination, but I think I can almost kind of feel it a little bit. Like, you know, like I don't know if that's going to come out. Type, you know, that type of feeling is coming. It's coming over the. It's coming over the internet. All right, so here's some of the colors for my trees. Okay, so those tree colors in there, you know, it reads a little bit. So looking at this though, these colored pencils work really well on this paper. Really, a really good surface for these colored pencils I'm finding. So I don't know if it was, you know, going forward, I'm gonna ever do this again because I think the colored pencils probably do the job just already. But I don't know. We'll see how it goes here. It seems like the colored pencils are just doing the job of establishing vibrancy. Maybe the alcohol inks, like I said, you know, they soaked through a lot, so I don't know if I really benefited from having those layered on here underneath all of these other tones. Let me try some of this yellow down in this meadow here. So one of the things I like using my colored pencils on is the Brilliance ink on top of the printable holographic vinyls. And that whole type of process. But they are a lot easier to build up on this paper, I'm finding, even though it's sealed off. Okay, now see, I didn't hit my registration perfectly well with the those trees right here. They're a little bit off, or they're a lot off. But I don't think that looks bad. It looks to me like they're just trees in the distance. As a matter of fact, I might put another, a couple impressions behind these areas. I have my registration mark there too. Let's go in with this tree and get some background trees in there in that same brown that we stamped them out in. Hello, Leslie. Good to see you. Thanks for joining in on this little experiment here. Yeah, the tree looks pretty good in brown back there, I think. Like that. I mean, to do it in like a green, or yeah, I think an olive green would look good too, potentially. That gives it a little bit more depth, doesn't it? You can do this thing too, where you kind of wipe off the bottom of this tree right here. I've shown this in a lot of other videos. There's probably a video just dedicated to, but you have it wet up here and it's a little bit medium moist and then kind of dry here, so it's transitioning from wet to dry like that. And then when you stamp it up a little bit higher like that, it's a little bit more, well, this one doesn't show it, but it fades out right here, so it doesn't kind of obscure the silhouette of these foreground, in this case, trees like that. And it looks like it's farther back in the distance too, with that little bit of mist, at the base of the trees. So you can do little things like that on there. All right. So if you just joined into this wood grain type of look up here in the sky is something that I free-handed with an alcohol pen like this. I'm joking. I don't know if anyone joined in and believed that. But just wood grained placemat paper, okay? All right, so we need to bring in this area down here in my meadows, needs to be modeled a little bit more. With these colored pencils, I'll go in with the darker tones here, okay. It's kind of it's starting to do that thing where when I use a lot of color, it starts to look a little, I don't know, maybe more than a little muddled, but it can look very muddled. So I'll show you some tricks to go in when kind of the addition of a lot of media starts to kind of muddle the imagery a little bit too much, okay? And I'll show you what I do for that. It's kind of like part of the process though to get it like really rich. I guess you can kind of avoid it in some ways, but I don't know. For me, it's just kind of easier just to kind of go overboard with your coloring and just to redefine things with your paint pens and things like that. Because like right in here, those forms are kind of muddled in there, so there's ways that we can we can obscure that. You can't really undo that, but you can obscure it with crisper objects, contrast, okay? Not contrast in terms of light and dark, but textural contrasts, okay? So this might be something beneficial for you guys, all of you. Anytime, you're running into something like where things are a little bit muddled, or let's say we smear something, right? It's less defined, okay? You just go in, you don't eradicate that, but you have something nice and crisp within that area, okay? So that you have something to balance off something that got smeared or got, kind of overworked, or if you're working with watercolors or something like that, you know what I mean? Watercolor pencils, whatever, and you're adding things on. It's like, if it looks like too much of the same texture, in other words, then you just stamp in like some other forms into it. And then they play off one another. So it looks a little bit more purposeful like that, okay? Where if it's just all the same, it's, it's kind of a, you know, it's a negative kind of trait, just kind of on its own. Okay, let's add in some shadows down here at the base of our trees. Let's go in with a darker green, though, instead. So I'm probably using this green like a, I don't know, like a 50% version of it, like something like this or so. You just have to kind of read how dark things are on your paper. If it's really light in here, then I might just use, a very small amount of it. All right, now let's use, let's go into what I was talking about with the textural contrast. Let's go and let's see. I have kind of those fall kind of colors going on with the those deciduous trees. So maybe something like this in there. I wanted to go brighter, so that here, let's get a little bit more gutsy. Yeah, something like that yellow in there is going to be much brighter. So let's add those into those deciduous trees right in between those evergreens right in here. And let's see how that goes. Okay, so this is the, the first kind of part of kind of putting bringing this all together visually, okay? All right, so what I do with my colored pencils and transparent media, alkyl inks, dye-based inks, and colored pencils to some extent, I can't put a light colored pencil over the top of a dark colored pencil and have it look light, I mean, we can do that on like a black piece of paper, but I don't find it works in here, so much. So I work that media from light to dark, okay? But when I'm working with more opaque media, then I work it from dark to light so that the lighter things are kind of right on the top of it like a highlight, and it builds those forms out. I probably do that for the most part. I don't know. I'm guessing I do it maybe, 90% of the time when using things like paint pens here. Okay, so this is going to be the darkest color in some areas, unless I go to like red or something like that. Let's see. Let me change my exposure here a little bit. Okay, so there's this little tree, or the tree in the middle of these pieces, but you can do this with any kind of like a deciduous tree in fall, colors. But I'm kind of adding this in those clusters within the design. I don't know if you can see it here. I'll just do a quick print of it here. Okay, so hopefully you can see this right here, but see this, there's light and shadow, there's light, shade, light, shade, light, shade. So this, I mean, I have to determine how light and dark this is here, with the coloring that I've done. So I'm going in here, for the most part, I'm probably bringing this pen, I'm going up here into the lighter area a little bit, and then coming down right into that darker area a little bit. Not exactly, because I still want that shade of the darker area, so just a little bit. But this is getting a pretty decent amount of coverage in here. And then as I work lighter and lighter, okay, like say by the time I get to this really light one, which is practically white, it's put like on the top sides of these illuminated clusters of branches right in here, okay? So I'm, this is kind of a darker tone, medium darker tone, so I'm using it right in here, but on the lightest tones. It's on the top edge of things. That's the same thing I do with rocks and things like that, okay? You know, the lightest of tones are right on the top sides of rocks. So it's just, you know, it's looking at the design and just kind of going with what's already in the design in terms of the way it's lit. All right, I'm going to use some of this on some of those background trees because it's like roughly the same value a little bit. Okay. Or color, I should say. All right, so let's go with that. I don't know if I need all these colors. I think this orange here is probably going to be roughly the same color as the previous. Yeah, it's a little bit lighter. Okay, but see, these little dots are like crisp little dots in here. And we're adding that into that kind of muddled area a little bit. See, it's kind of like a little sparkly, just, you know, just with those two colors. Let's go with the yellow here. So yellow's getting kind of lighter, so I'll keep those kind of on the top sides of these little tufts. I don't know, whatever you call them. Okay, like this. So I don't know if you can see that here, but it's kind of transitioning from darker to lighter. Darker to lighter, okay? I mean, sometimes you don't have to keep, you know, to that, you know, transition everywhere. You know what I mean? It's not that key, but I'm doing it for the most part. Okay, now see, I might even do a few more highlights up there, less of the lighter one down below, too. You can do things like that, like here. There's this tree right here. I'll put a little bit more up top, a little bit less below, you know, so it's, you know, kind of representing top lighting. Inevitably, you just kind of look at your pieces and kind of make your own assessment. Like that's almost like, you know, it's standing out a lot right now, but I haven't done anything in the grasses yet, so it doesn't match anything right now, but hopefully it will. That being said, when I get to some of these grasses, so you can see what I'm talking about right here, I'm still going to stamp some stuff in the grasses too. Some crisper, darker forms in there. But this is a way I can start it off, or you can do those things first if you want to. See, here's this ridge going from dark to light up here, so this is kind of representing like highlighting. So I'm adding this light form on the top of that area. This little area right in here goes from dark to lighter up here, so you can have some of this in here. And you can see these little illuminated areas down here, shadow, and this one's a little bit illuminated. So I will put some of that right in here. There's going to be foreground in here, so, you know, if it looks kind of weird or if there's too much of it, I'm not worried about it because I'm going to put a bunch in like grass forms in front of this anyways in the form of foreground. All right, so it's kind of waking up my kind of grassy area a little bit. And that's just with one color, you know, we'll put, 2 or 3 colors in that grass area, I think. Okay, something like that. It's really waking up that grassy area. It's kind of bringing it to life, I think. I guess the paper down here is kind of serving like it, you know, the existing patterning on that paper down there. It's serving like a You can't really see like the wood grain texturing in here anymore. Maybe a little bit in here, but I think it's serving um, like a base coat of some tone that I suggest doing that on a lot of different scenes just to kind of get a slathering of ink down. Before you go on there with whatever your designated hue, or color scheme is going to be in that area. All right, this one's pretty light here, so I'll use it a little bit sparingly. I mean, I might add more, but I'll build it up kind of gradually because it really kind of stands out, right? Oh, the positioner. Yeah, Cecile. I guess I don't know. I don't really do that type of positioning too often, so um, yeah. I don't even really think about it. Um, well, I don't know. I guess I was thinking about it. I was thinking about, okay, don't blow this. I am glad though that I made those little positioner, kind of registration marks on my paper. But the thing about it though, you know what I mean? Like I said, unless I'm off like a quarter inch, that little, even, I don't know, maybe, I think like an eighth of an inch would have been the tolerance there. If I was off by, anything over that, um, I don't know. I'm wondering if I could have compensated for it with the, with all the colored pencils and everything like that. I think maybe it would have been okay. But yeah, definitely not a quarter inch or something like that. But I mean, we're not going to be off like a quarter inch or something like that. You know, we're all stampers, right? So we've been doing these kind of, you're like a human, printing kind of machine. We've been registering imagery, for a long time. All right, so a little bit white. That's definitely looking like wildflowers now or something like that. It's not looking like highlights because it just stands out too much. But looking at that, it occurs to me I should do like a bluebell. I was doing those bluebell type of forest floor types of things. I think that would be kind of interesting on this paper here. Isn't that the best type of stuff though when you're using something that you haven't really used too much before? And it kind of inspires you to when you're doing something, it's like, oh, I want to try this with this paper. You know what I mean? Where it's just like kind of a never ending kind of a, well, I don't know about never ending, but I don't know. It just different things kind of come to your mind, that you want to try, maybe during the process, or you might be just sitting around or something like that, and something might come to mind. When you're not even thinking about it. I tend to think that that's like the funnest types of, I don't know, whatever papers or media to work with. All right, adding in some little highlights into my trees too. We don't want it just in that kind of deciduous section there. I'm using a little bit of a darker tone here than that really light beige. It's just a little bit darker. By the way, if you ever have any of these types of paint pens too, and let's say you don't have, I don't do this too often, but it occurs to me that I could do it with some of these. Like if this is just too light, you can kind of let it sit around a little bit and have it separate, and don't shake it up before you use it. So you're kind of using a watery version. And so whatever you're using it over the top of kind of shows through a little bit more. And thus, you're using a darker version, or you're applying a little bit of a darker version, a more see-through version, that looks dark. If you're applying it over something that's dark, which most of the cases, if you're using a light colored pen, I'm not going to be using this too much on, well, I don't know, that one shows up, but this one I don't think is going to show up on white too much. So yeah, just use it watery. All right. So here's a little comparison contrast going right here between the two, kind of minimal. And I know what a lot of you are saying, hey, I like that one better. All right, so let's see here. I'm going to go and add in, I think I want to try some of my white pigment ink in here. Okay, so before I do that, though, I want to... Okay, this is where I start to bring a little bit more harmony into the color schemes here. So we have this deciduous, tree kind of in fall colors right here, and here and here. So what you do a little bit is you bring some of these little clusters of some of those fallen leaves, and you put them underneath the trees too. Okay, so it kind of it brings that area to life with a little bit of a a light on dark tone a little bit, but it from a textural standpoint, it just, I don't know, I think it looks better too. So say it's right down here, right in here, and up there. I don't know if you're even like see it, like someone would notice that, besides a, I don't know, whatever fellow, scenic stamper or something like that. If you give these cards to people, I don't know if people are going to say, oh, there's some orange down there, that was a nice addition. But I think just in terms of visual harmony, it looks a lot better. Okay, so maybe I should add in that fence in here, right around here. I was definitely going to add in some brush, or I don't know, some leaves or something like that. Let's see, which size would we do here? Is this a better one? Let's give it a try here. Okay, so this is so we added crispness back into the scenario here with those little dots. Now, this is another thing. This is going to be hopefully a nice crisp impression right in here, okay? I'm not going to use the whole thing. It'll be a little bit too much, but it'll be coming in from off of the page. So that's another crisp form to kind of, contrast against this kind of mottled area of a lot of tone. Mottled, maybe muddled. Okay. Glad you like it with the colored pencils, Jeannie. So it's just a little bit right there. I think I'm going to use the larger one on this side just to, I don't know, create a little bit of a size contrast. unless this, yeah. Let's go with the larger one out here. So it's just going to be like this. I'm just going to use like the top third. Yeah, maybe a little bit more. Like, let's go like that. So even this cabin, it's not really very crisp. I mean, it didn't stamp in this like darkness of black, right? You know, because I'm stamping it over this type of paper right here. I'm stamping it over, you know, alcohol inks that have built up a lot. And it's a more delicate image. It's not as solid as this one. So see, if you introduce like these solids into it, you know, it kind of pushes that back in the distance a little bit more. And I think it makes for a pretty decent complementary, whatever, textural, whatever, form entity. So over the top of these, you know, colored pencils, definitely the, you know, the StazOn, I would say, or, you know, just other type of permanent solvent ink, you know, that's going to stamp, you know, with a pretty decent, you know, impression quality over the top of all that media. Maybe the Brilliance Black would work pretty good, a pigment ink. The VersaFine Clair, I don't know. Does anyone have a kind of their thoughts on like a VersaFine Clair over the top of colored pencils? And I don't know if an oil-based medium's going to work really well over the top of like that waxy style of colored pencil. But I see that in those fences right there, that really helped it right there. And let's go for some these reeds like this. Okay. So the reeds are just another kind of crisp form. This fence right here is supposed to represent something a little bit more distant, so I'm not going to put some reeds over here. Plus, if I did the reeds over there, it'd look like the reeds are, you know, you'd have these long kind of grassy forms right in the middle of the road. Something like that. We have these areas right here. This whole area up here should have something. Let's go with the leaves right here. So the leaves will provide another crisp type of element within here to contrast against that tone in that area. So right, you know, we're kind of, oops, we're playing contrasts against one another. We have dark and light in here. You can do things with crisp and kind of soft. Things aren't always necessarily kind of strategies, you know, that we have kind of going into a scene. Sometimes that's, you know, you use these strategies as kind of a, you know, kind of a methodology to repair things that kind of go a little bit awry, you know, too. So like I said, in this process right here, things were looking a little bit muddled. They still are a little bit, you know, but it's just, it doesn't look as, I don't know, it doesn't look as bad when you have some other things in there to contrast against it. Okay, so here's a tree. Now, I wasn't planning on this one. I just happened to have it on right on my desk here. So I think this will look really good in here as a nice crisp form, you know. And it, it creates another layer of depth too. So, I mean, I don't have a problem with this area in here, but let's say you did, you stamped something across there and it's like, bad area gone, bad area disappear. Okay, so here's a little tree like this. Maybe this tree has already lost its, leaves or something like that, or whatever. Oh, I can't even see that one. I did that another time recently. I can't even see it. Well, let's see. That's what it looks like that. I guess it was too dark in there, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Okay, so if that's too delicate in there, let's see. That sure looks like it would work well in there, though. I'm going to try it again. Let me try it in another location here. Or do I want to? Let's put it up around. Okay, let's do it right here. I'm not stamping this whole bottom portion, just from right here. Yeah, okay, that shows up right there. It's real delicate, though. I might not have used it enough. I think this is such a delicate image. Maybe the ink was dry by the time I brought it in here, too. Yeah, let's go. Let's do another one. I'll just stamp one kind of right next to it. And I'll hold this down a little bit longer for that ink to transfer, maybe? I don't know. Okay, yeah, I got a much darker impression. I don't know if you can even see that in there. Right there, against that. I don't know, you can't really see it too much, though. Here, let me go for one more. This is going to be my crisp element, kind of within this grassy area form. Okay, there we go. That shows up much better. Anyway. All right, so crisp within, I don't know, whatever, muddled and soft. We have our crisp elements out here. We have near and far. Now let's see here. I don't know if I should do this or not. Let me do it with a darker one here. Okay, I'm not going to shake this up either. I like to add in these little trunks into my forms. I don't always do it with the tree cluster stamp. I'm always doing it with the autumn stuff, though. But let's see how it goes, because this is kind of adding in kind of a crisp element into these forms again. Okay, see that right in there. I'm doing it really lightly because I don't want it like too bold in here, because just in case I don't like it. If I don't like it, then it's barely going to show up here. And I think it's working pretty good in here. All right, so let me bring it into these darker forms a little bit. I'm doing it in the evergreens here. I'm going right down into the kind of the trunk at the base of the tree. Like that. You see these areas right in there? I mean, I'll give it some other kind of I'll give it, the branches too, so it's not just the trunk. but I'm kind of putting this nice crisp element right into the, you know, smack dab in the middle of the tree. I'm doing it really lightly though. Like I said, I'll see if I like it, then I can add more. Okay, so here comes the, you know, the branches, or branch out from that area. This pen, as I do that, is kind of, it's, I'm scraping up some of that colored pencil into the pen, but it's working pretty good though, because I want a really light, thin flow on this pen right now, so having it a little bit clogged is kind of assisting. Yeah, okay, I think that looks better. See, there's all little things in there. So again, you know, you're kind of getting rid of this kind of muddled look in there. Oh, so here, let's come on this tree right in the background here. The cabin. You know, some little branches and highlights in there as well. All right, now this is like really clogged. Nothing's coming out of it. Okay, let's go on the fence here too. On the top of the fence here, I'm just adding a little bit of a highlight. That. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. I don't know if you can see that on this, on your screen here, but I'm kind of doing it like a little check mark. Like here's the post right here, and I'm doing it like a little check like this, okay? So that the line is a little bit more varied. See, there's a lot, you know, it's a little bit more highlighted, and it looks a little bit more kind of three-dimensional. You can do it on the posts as well. Like something like that. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to use that white pigment ink on here. I think that white might be a little bit stark on here. Because I was thinking if I add that white pigment ink fogging in here, I don't have any, I'm not using the white paint pen either, so if I do that with the white kind of fog, I don't know, this is an experiment, right? I should try it. Okay, Linda was taught with using the Copic markers that you have added sufficient ink when you can see it on the back side of the paper. It will blend. Oh yeah, when it's like completely saturated with the pulp, yeah, it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to blend like wet ink. Yeah. Then so that's what I'm doing with this here too. You know what I mean? When we're using alcohol inks or anything like that, or colored pencils, or you know, especially like dye-based inks, when you can add in that, when you can put like when you can model this kind of like solution that's, you know, on your page, it's much easier to do that than to have a surface that's like grabbing your media really fast and absorbing it back into the pulp, you know, i.e. Like a dry piece of paper. Okay, so here's what I'm doing here. I'm bringing in more of this orange in here. Here's this slightly darker orange. I need more of this in this kind of field in here because it's things are looking a little bit too separate between the like the orangish, you know, kind of forms in here. We need a little bit more of this integrated in here. Not that we're not making the green grass orange or anything like that, but we'll just kind of integrate that color into that. It'll make it look a little bit more rustic looking like right around in here. I don't know if you can see that little warmth from the orange now that's kind of interspersed in there. Like that. All right, let's go ahead and try a little bit of white pigmenting. If I don't like it, I can always just kind of wipe it off a little bit, you know, to some extent. Gosh, I haven't used that. No, I don't know. It feels like it's been a couple weeks where I'm usually using it all the time. Okay, here we go. All right, so now this is what, if I'm using a white piece of paper, this is something that really kind of brings things together a lot of times. But on here, I don't know, maybe it'll stand out too much. That almost looks white though, doesn't it? All right. So I've left a little bit of space up here if I wanted to do like some kind of quote up there as well. Now, I don't know if there's a brilliance, kind of like a tan, like a little bit of warm white or something like that, but that would be like really ideal for this scenario. I think it'd be perfect. But like I said, I don't know if they have that color. I don't have a lot of brilliance pads. All right, let's see. Let's add it. Let's go in here a little bit. It doesn't look too bad. So I'm just adding, you know, just a little tiny bit of it. It feels different. It feels like, just like, you know, with a lot of this other media that I'm doing on here. I can tell that this paper is kind of absorbing it faster, even though I'm applying it over the top of a lot of media here. You know, with the colored pencils, the alcohol inks, and stuff like that. It feels different already, slightly. All right, so see that little touch in there? I don't think I'll go too much more than, you know, like that amount of application, so that the colors underneath are showing through a little bit more. But I think that it's given it some pretty decent atmosphere. What do you think? Let's push these trees in the distance a little bit farther back too. I think it looks pretty decent in here, you know. I think it looks decent without it too, but I don't know. It might look better with it. I'm not sure. Let's go real subtle right in here, maybe. Just so everything's not treated kind of the exact same way. And put some a little bit alongside this pathway here. See, what I do on a lot of these things, I'm oscillating it a little bit, or varying it. Okay, so we have this tree cluster right up here. Okay, so I'm adding it like right around in here, but leaving this part alone. We have this area right here, and it's just kind of transitioning a little bit there. We have this tree right here, so I'm putting it on one side of it. I mean, it doesn't matter what side you put it on. You can put it over the here and have it not there. So here's this whole side of this little roadside area, but I'm putting it right there, but leaving this, you know, as is. Okay, so some, none, you know, some, none over there, that type of thing. I mean, it's not, you know, if you put a little bit more of something somewhere, or you put, you know, over this whole thing, it's not wrong or anything like that. But when you just put it over like one side of things, what you're doing is you're creating contrast. So I created a textural contrast between this and this. You know, I mean, I could put it, you know, there, or you can vary it too. You can go like this too. You know, so I'm going some, none, some, like this right here. But see this right here, it's going you know, soft, crisper, soft like that, you know, so that kind of pushes textural range, lighting range within a given form or area too. So sometimes it can be a little bit of a richer kind of end result. Again, by just not treating areas or objects equally. Okay, it's just like this wall here. Okay, so this rooftop right here is a little bit darker, it's a little bit lighter. This one right here is a little bit darker, lighter right here, you know. Underneath the eaves, it's a little bit darker up there and lighter down here. This little hill, light, dark. So it's, I don't know, if you watch my videos, I mentioned checkerboarding in the past, you know, where these other areas are, you know, they're not, to, you know, not that they're squares or anything, but you see this is darker, lighter. This is darker, lighter, you know, darker, lighter, darker like this. If you go from here, it's going light, you know, whatever. Dark, light, dark. I put it in the designs too. Dark, light, dark, you know, light, dark, light. I mean, you get the point, right? So when you're coloring things like that, you know, just, you know, create a little bit of variation in there. In here, it's, you know, kind of soft and whatever. Softer and lighter and darker and crisper, I guess. Anything like that. So you're playing those contrasts again once against one another. And all right, so here's the differences here. This one here has a little bit of pink in it, but I don't know which one looks better. You know, I don't know if I'm not going to do the alcohol inks underneath here anymore. I think we can achieve the brightness and richness if we want to. Like if I wanted to make this brighter and richer, I could just using the colored pencils. I think that's the way to go in terms of the amount of expenditure. This one might be a little bit brighter through the use of the alcohol inks, like it is like when I'm doing it on like a white piece of paper. But I think on this wood grain paper, I think it's just a lot of extra work. You know, that you know, it maybe isn't necessarily needed in the end result, and I don't know, maybe not covering up as much of that wood grained and having it show in these areas. Maybe it looks, you know, maybe we're utilizing the paper a little bit more. I don't know, you know, so I don't know. Does that grain up here? Does it look a little bit more kind of? Does it look different, or does it look enhanced, I guess, from not having that down here? Like up in here, there's that same type of forms. You can see it in the meadow and right in here. Maybe it's not as prominent. Maybe if this was all bright up here, then this little knot or something like that is going to take on a, you know, a little bit more prominence in terms of a kind of a different texture, you know, than what's going through the rest of the thing. I don't know, you know. But anyway, a little bit of a change here. You know, if you, this would be up here. You know, if I had some green, you know, I might be able to stamp in some greens up here with the dye base. Let me try something right here. Because I was saying if I had like a green StazOn ink. Can't even think of, you know, the word here. Maybe that would be kind of cool too. Let me try this here. I'm going to try, where's my test printing paper? Let me try something here. So this is a bottle green. It looks like it's black, I'm sure, to you guys, but this is a dark green here. Let me see how dark this stamps out right here. Then I don't know why some of these things are stamping out darker than I think they would. Here, let me just stamp this out anyways. Here, I'll blot it first so we go for a little bit of a lighter impression. Yeah, maybe I'll go for 2 versions of green up there. Yeah, that looks pretty good, right? This was looking a little bit harsh up here just with the silhouette, so we'll bring some of this green into this area right up here, so it's not so bottom heavy and kind of unrelated to the top foreground imagery, like that. That looks a little bit better, huh? That looks pretty good there. Let me see, is it lighter? Yeah, okay. So this is on just a white piece of paper. You can see where it's a little bit lighter than that. So I'm not sure like why the black stamped out so light on my first impression tests. Yeah, that looks pretty dark like that. Okay, I kind of eradicated, you know, my space for, you know, like a word stamp, but anyway. All right. So there we have it. A little bit of a comparison contrast type of thing. Working through, you know, a lot of, I don't know, whatever, additional steps, maybe for, you know, maybe for the good of the card, I'm not sure. But I don't know, I think this has a pretty decent look to it, you know. I might try some, you know, some more intense modeling. Here's this card in terms of a comparison to just, you know, just adding a little bit of a brown tone to it, you know, similar type of composition right here. Here's, you know, this is the reflection card. If you haven't seen this one's using the gold foil down below, like that. Like that. So you can see what that looks like there. I don't know which one I like the best, you know, the most. Or, you know, I guess I like them for different reasons. Oh, look at this one right here. So this is really minimal, right? No color. This one uses a little touch of some color in here with some grains, and this one's the most. So I don't know. Three different kind of versions of a whatever grassy hills on wood grain paper. I don't know, I have to think about this one for a while. I guess I like them all, okay, but yeah, alcohol ink on there was kind of pointless because I didn't really get it too bright anyway, so I don't know. Like I said, I'll think about it. But definitely colored pencils. Colored pencils are awesome on this paper. All right, so let's see. Does anyone have any comments or questions? If you have like different types of papers too, so some, you know, I'm seeing like awesome types of examples posted on the Facebook group. People are pulling out like vintage papers that they've had before. You know, Linda pulled out this really cool one that had like, you know, it looks like wooden. I don't know what is it called, Linda? It's like wooden slats or something like that with like hard lines, like, you know, where the like two wooden planks are kind of separated. Okay, and those are awesome. You know, it's even kind of a harder edge contrast to be stamping over the top of. So if one of those things were going through this area, you know, and be on that paper she's using, you would definitely see a line running right through, like that cabin right there. But I think it looks really cool though. It, like, you know, what have you done on there, Linda? You've done like 2 or 3 that you posted. It's like everything looks really cool. I think you did 3, right? You did that vellum piece too. So that's another thing on this one. You know, when you're using these types of textural printed cards, if there's a lot of texture on them, you know, with a lot of contrast, which there isn't on this one, but you can do that whole thing with like a vellum technique. You can, you know, stamp and color on the vellum, and then you can put it over the top and adhere, you know, merge, you know, the background papers to the vellum, and that looked, you know, Linda posted this one today, and it looked really awesome with that vellum form. You know, imagery looked real dimensional and recessed on that, you know, that translucent vellum use. I didn't even ask you, Linda. I'll have to take a look at your piece again. If you stamped on the back of the, I think did you stamp anything on the back of the vellum, or is it all in the front of the vellum? I'll have to look at that again. But yeah, Cecile, it's getting smaller and smaller here. It's, you know, it's driving me nuts. But I'm keeping all, like, I don't know if I can zoom out too far, but I still have all my like little Halloween things. I started doing those like little my first kind of foray into the Halloween types of stuff. But then started playing around with that vintage paper on that Halloween one, and then I just coming across this wood grain one, which I've always wanted to try for a really long time, but just haven't gotten around to. So, not my idea to stamp on it. Someone submitted Shannon. I can't remember. I have to look at her last name again, but she gave me two pieces. Oh, so we haven't done this either on this. So you can stamp on this type of paper too with your imagery and emboss it, okay? And then what she did was she just went in with like Tombow pens or something like that and colored in. Just real kind of minimal applications of color, and that looked really cool too on top of this, type of patterning. So yeah, embossing, another whole thing you can potentially kind of explore with this. And there's other things you can do on top of the embossing too, that maybe you couldn't do, I don't know, with, some other types of impression processes. I'm not sure if, I'm looking at this. Is that white in there a little bit too harsh, on here? I'm going to wipe some of it off. It's real surface oriented, so you can wipe it off a little bit. Yeah, it looks a little bit better, huh? Where it's real subtle like that. But, yeah. Fun stuff. If you have some papers, which a lot of you do, a lot of you have like a gazillion more types of papers than I do, check through it and see if there's anything cool that, you can do some test prints on and post it so we can see. Yeah, the Lees are a little bit better, huh, Linda? Each has its own personality. I'm with you, Sam. So I did that little survey too of the what was it? I think I added more color. Oh yeah. I think it was on the vintage paper, kind of more of a quicker, minimal types of approach to highlighting. And then I added color on and I asked in a survey on this channel, which I haven't used that whatever application of this channel before too much, or if at all. But I asked people if they liked, kind of a more minimal look or something like that, or if they liked the colored one. Not on these ones, but on a different one. And it was like, I don't know, it was like all equal, there was like 30% kind of more minimal, 30 some, ish, I think, colored one, and but they liked them both the same, was like 40% or something like that. So yeah, I like the additional stamping with grain. It helped, huh, Leslie? It integrated this whole area a little bit more. Maybe, maybe if I did it in a lighter green too, might have looked cool. It would have brought out, kind of those lighter greens up there. Now, I don't want to do another one up there. It'll be too much of that leafy overhang, I think. But now I look at it, I think some of that green would have been cool up there. A little bit of a warmer green, maybe. I don't know. Okay, you did stamp the back of the vellum. Cool. On that dark wood, yeah, that dark wood grain. I don't know, Linda. It's awfully fun stuff, huh? Maybe that can be your next class that you teach or something like that. Stamping on wood grain papers or just textured papers in general, huh? But yeah, Linda, you said that paper was in your stash, right? And was it a cardstock or something like that? You guys got to check it out too. What I liked about Linda's too is those wood plank type of papers too. On that second piece, you stamped that word stamp, so it looked like it was a line, and the word stamp was like positioned like kind of right along at that line. So it was like perfect for like word stamps with those hard lines down there. So there's all kinds of potential for word stamp integration in there. which would be fun. So I don't know. There's too many papers out there, that I know. It's like, we need to test out. I like the. There's another thing for those of you who are on Facebook. Someone tested, that type of paper that had that kind of tattered, worn edge around there. I thought she did it herself because I thought I saw people doing that in the past. But the paper came like that. She picked up a pack of paper like on Amazon, so that added an additional kind of rustic looking edge. So I don't know, Candy, do you remember people like burning the edges of their papers too and like putting it out, giving it that kind of aged look around it, So I think that would be kind of cool on this paper too. This paper's so thin though, you gotta, if you do that thing where you actually light it on fire, be ready to put it out really fast, because it's so thin. But I think that would look cool on here too, that burnt edge look on wood, right? So, yeah, all kinds of different things we can possibly try out with this piece, or with this type of, patterning on there. And there's probably all kinds of other wood grain types of cardstocks too. I didn't even look at that, so. I don't know. Anyway, rambling on here. Thanks for checking it out. I'll get this formatted onto something. And so on this one, I'm going to definitely use the spray adhesive, okay? I use a 3M type of spray adhesive spray glue because I think, when I'm using this tape runner on something like this is just, it's too floppy, and the edges are kind of like springing up where I don't get this tape runner right next to it. I just find it so much easier just to spray the whole thing, get a coating on that, and I just put it down on I put it down on a larger piece of paper so I can cut it afterwards. Otherwise, I have to kind of get it, like perfectly aligned, where I have a little bit of a border around it. So if you have a spray adhesive, or if you don't, I'd really recommend getting a can of it. It lasts you for like, I don't know, you can do like 100 cards with like one can of that spray adhesive. But on a piece of paper like this, it's, really floppy like that, I think it really comes in handy with that. With all cards, but especially something like this that's this thin. I think that's just the way to go. All right, thanks again everyone for joining in. Look forward to seeing you next time. Experiment with your papers and media. Yeah, thanks for joining in, Leslie. And glad you like it, Linda. We got our work cut out for us with all kinds of new possibilities, right? It's like when you dip into like one new kind of surface or something like that, it's like, oh my God, we do one type of thing and it keeps branching off, the antique paper or something like that. You try one thing, and if it works pretty good, it like branches off into all these other ideas. It's like never ending. So I don't know. The only problem with that is sometimes I go back to these old techniques and I don't remember how to do them, if I only did them like once or twice. So I don't know. But yeah, I guess I can watch my videos, right? To see how I did it. But yeah, this experimenting is a lot of fun. Just to see what these different things are going to look like. And that's, that's the most fun when using kind of a new media, or in this case, a new, genre or type of paper. It opens up a lot of different possibilities with, reflection cards. What do those look like with that? Horizon cards, I don't know, staining, etc. So we got to like burn this paper now to get some of those burnt tattered edges like that. All right, folks, have a great rest of evening, and maybe we'll see you on the next Stampscapes Live.